Hi, this is Brent McKim, president of JCTA. Well, it's January, the legislature's in session, and this is the time of year when a great deal of misinformation about the teachers' retirement system gets posted on social media. So this year, I wanted to help all of you get ahead of the game on combating this misinformation. I have some examples to show you, and I'll also show you how you can provide accurate information to dispel the misinformation that always shows up on social media. To begin with, I need to tell you a little bit about terminology, particularly when you're talking about pensions. You'll often hear people talking about the ARC, the ARC. That's the actuarially required contribution, or sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the ADEC, the ADC, the actuarially determined contribution. Either way, the way to think about that is to think of it kind of like what we owe to the pension for it to be completely funded is kind of like a variable rate mortgage on a house, like a 30-year variable rate mortgage, where each year the variable rate may change, and you may get notice that interest rates have gone up and your variable rate mortgage is a little higher, or interest rates have gone down and it's a little lower, and it's a year by year kind of thing. Well, the actuarially required contribution for the pension works the same way. Each year, actuaries calculate how much money is needed for the system to be completely funded, fully funded in 30 years from a starting date that they choose. Right now, we are about 5 years into a 30-year period when the actuarially required contribution was determined. So if we keep making the full ARC payments as a state, in about 25 more years, our unfunded liability will be completely paid off and our pension system will be 100% funded. So that's basically what you need to know to understand what an ARC is referring to. It's how much you need to put in any given year to fully fund it. Now, those are always calculations that are made on the front end, and the legislature does its best to determine how much is needed and fully fund it, but we don't actually know if that was 100% of the ARC or 102% of the ARC or 98% of the ARC until the year has passed and we look at the performance of the investments and so forth to be able to determine that. But if the legislature puts in what they believe is a 100% full funding, it's probably going to be 100%, give or take 3 or 4% on any given year. But it's going to be right there. And even if you're high or low a little bit, it's not going to really change the payoff period, because the very next cycle that gets taken into account when the actuaries calculate the next required payment for the next year. So I think that's all that we need to know to proceed. Let's look at a recent couple posts with misinformation, and let's look at where we can find accurate information. All right. I have opened an image of a couple social media posts with misinformation. If we look at the first one, notice it says that 2004 was the last time Kentucky contributed the full actuarially required contribution to the teachers' retirement system. Let's go on down. The same post says teachers are not allowed to know how their retirement account is charged for fees and what the performance is of the private money investments in KTRS. And then here's a second post that asserts our pensions were funded at 139% in the year 2000, and now we're lucky if they are 40% funded. All right, so those are some good examples of misinformation. Let's take a look at where we can find accurate information. I'm going to open a web browser to do that. And let me see if I can share the screen. Here we go. There's Google. All you need to do then is type there we go. TRS, as in Teachers Retirement System. The very first thing that pops up is the Teachers Retirement System for Kentucky. So we're going to select that. that takes you to the landing page for TRS. And now we're just a couple clicks away. We want to go to administration, and we're going to click on that tab. And then what we want is financial reports, investment returns, and plan information. I'm going to click on that and wait for it to return. And we get this page. And what we want is the comprehensive annual financial report, sometimes referred to as the CAFR, C-A-F-R. And we want the CAFR for the most recent one for the fiscal year ended 2020 and 2019. I'm just going to tap on that and it will open the CAFR. This is available to the general public and every member. You can go there yourself and check this out. Now, first, let's look at the assertion that there's no way to know what the fees are that are charged or by amount or percent, and that there's no way to know about the investment returns. To see accurate information about that false assertion, we need to go to page 105 in this report, which happens to be page 109 in the PDF of the report, due to the table of contents and so forth. So here's page 105 of the report. As you can see here, on this page, you can see investment counselor fees by asset class, equity managers, fixed income management, real estate, and so forth. It gives you the dollar amount and the basis points of that. A basis point is 1/100th of 1%. So 1 basis point is 100th of 1% of overhead or cost. Those are your fees, and you can see above information about that and so forth. If we scroll on down to the next page, page 106, the life insurance trust, similarly, there are the expenses in each category, the basis points that amounts to, and then for the retirement annuity trust, you can see the schedule of investment counselor fees and administrative expenses there for all of the individual like management, financial management partners that the system works with, and it will give you all of that information for each and every one of them, so you can see what the cost is that we have invested. Similarly, let's go to the assertion that we have not had the ARC fully funded since the year 2000 and so forth. That information is available in the comprehensive annual financial report on page 133, which is page 137 of the PDF. If you look here, this is the percent of the actuarially required contribution that was made during each of the past 10 years. So here's the year over here, and over here is the percent of the actuarially required contribution that was made during the given year. If you look, for example, over the last 4 years, starting in 2017, the legislature allocated what it believed was 100% of the ARC. It was pretty close in its projection, because after it was all said and done and it's calculated up, the funding was 99% of the ARC. So at 99%, rather than having the unfunded liability paid off in 30 years, that might add, a few months to the time that it would take to pay off the unfunded liability. The next year, 2018, they were also close in their estimates. 97% of the actuarially required contribution was made. In 2019, they hit it right on the money. 100% of the ARC was made. In 2020, 100% of the ARC was made. In 2011, over 150% of the ARC was made. That's because the system issued about a $600 million bond to repay the medical insurance trust, which had been using some of the pension investments for the previous few years. And that was completely paid off in 2011 with interest on that. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen there. So what's the net result of having made the ARC payment at or near 100% for a number of years running now? Well, this information is provided by the teacher's retirement system. This is the percent funding level of the system over the past few decades. And you may remember there was an assertion that the system was funded at 139% in the year 2000. Let's look at the TRS information. In the year 2000, the system was not funded at 139%. It was funded at 95.7%, as you can see. The assertion, if you recall, was in the second post was, now we're lucky if we're at 40% funding. Well, as you can see, the lowest point we ever reached was the year 2013. And in the year 2013, our funding level dropped down below 52%. But by that point, JCTA and KEA members were heavily involved with lobbying the General Assembly and pressing hard. Funding started to improve. And as you can see, the funding level has gone up above 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. We're now up over 58% funded in the pension. And that shows every sign of continuing to improve. So as the full ARC is paid, the funding level goes up, and that's what we want to see. Meanwhile, you may remember that in the around the year 2010, we started on a path to move the medical insurance fund from a pay-as-you-go system that was essentially virtually 0% funded to a completely pre-funded system, which is a really good thing to do, because in a pay-as-you-go system, you pay 100 cents on the dollar for the benefits, and in a completely pre-funded system, you only pay about 30 cents on the dollar for the benefits, and 70 cents on the dollar comes from investment returns. And as you can see, as we have moved from the early 2000s to today, the medical insurance fund is growing at a very healthy rate, and it's almost 62% funded. Projections are in the next 6 to 8 years, but probably on this trajectory in 6 years, it will be 100% pre-funded. So that's really good news on the medical insurance fund. So the bottom line is this. There are assertions out there that information is not available, that you can't see the returns, you can't see the fees. You can see all of that in the comprehensive annual financial report. I didn't go through all of the investment returns because there's pages and pages and pages of those, but that's in there too for your browsing pleasure. So if you hear or see these kind of posts being made asserting that the TRS sky is falling on the existing system, or that there isn't financial transparency, or the funding level is terrible and not improving, or what have you, go to JCTA's members only Facebook page, share a screenshot, and I'd be happy to direct you to accurate information, because it's almost certain that what you're seeing is just not remotely accurate. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your support of JCTA, and be watching your email and our social media as we go through the legislature, because we may need your help in protecting our retirement system and many other things as well. So thank you very much.